In the lands where northern winds roar, the real battle began long before the first blade was raised.
Valhalla was not a paradise. It was a promise that quietly demanded your death. For centuries, Valhalla has been sold as glory. A shining hall, endless feasts, eternal honor. But the old stories, the ones whispered instead of sung, tell something colder. Valhalla was not about reward. It was about control. Imagine growing up knowing there was only one way to matter, one way to be remembered, one way to avoid disappearing into nothing. And that way led straight into violence. Why would a belief system celebrate death so eagerly? Why were only certain deaths considered worthy? And what happened to everyone else? To understand the dark side of Valhalla, we have to stop looking at it as a myth and start seeing it as a system. From childhood, a warrior learned the rules without being taught. You fight. You do not run. You do not surrender. Not because bravery was admired, but because survival was suspicious. A peaceful death meant silence after life. No songs, no stories, no second chance. Valhalla was selective. Only those who fell in battle were chosen. Not the old, not the sick, not the careful. So a quiet fear followed every decision. If you lived too long, did that mean you lived wrong? Picture a man standing before battle. He is injured. He could fall back and survive. But survival means shame. It means dying later in bed and being forgotten. So he steps forward instead, not because he wants to die, but because he is afraid of what comes after life, if he doesn't. This belief shaped how wars were fought. Raids became reckless. Battles dragged on longer than they needed to. Retreat was weakness. Negotiation was dishonor. Valhalla didn't just reward courage. It punished caution. At night, around the fire, stories were told. Not of peaceful lives, but of brutal deaths. The message was clear. A good death mattered more than a good life. Women watched their sons leave knowing something unspoken. If he came back alive too many times, questions would follow. Was he brave enough? Or was he avoiding his fate? And then there were the ones who didn't qualify at all. Farmers, craftsmen, children. Their deaths were ordinary. And ordinary meant empty. No hall, no reunion, just shadows and silence. Valhalla created a hierarchy of death. Some lives were meaningful only if they ended violently. Over time, this belief hardened. Warriors laughed at pain. They mocked fear. But fear didn't disappear. It went underground. Because what happens if you believe your worth depends on how you die. And then death doesn't come when you expect it. Many warriors grew old anyway, scarred, tired, alive. And old age was the quiet enemy no one spoke about. There were no songs for it, no honor in it. Some tried to provoke fights late in life. Some took impossible risks, not for victory, but for an ending that fit the story. Valhalla wasn't waiting for them. It was chasing them. Even rituals reflected this pressure. Weapons were buried with the dead, not as symbols, but as preparation. Because death was not rest. It was recruitment. The fallen were expected to fight again. to train every day, to prepare for a final war that never arrived. So even paradise had labor, even glory had duty. Valhalla promised escape from mortality by trapping warriors in endless conflict. And deep down, many must have wondered if the reward for fighting is more fighting. When does it end? That question lingered, unanswered. Beliefs like this don't stay in stories. They leak into behavior. Communities lost fathers early. Young men chased death instead of wisdom. Violence became proof of value. And the cost wasn't only physical. To fear a meaningless death is to fear life itself. To measure worth by violence is to live under constant judgment. Valhalla gave comfort to those who died suddenly, but it haunted those who lived slowly. It taught people not how to live well, but how to die correctly. And that is a heavy thing to carry. Today, Valhalla feels distant, a myth from another age. But ask yourself this: how often do we still glorify sacrifice, while ignoring the cost of survival? How often do we praise the dramatic ending and forget the quiet life in between? Because maybe Valhalla never disappeared. Maybe it just changed its name. And maybe it's still asking the same question: what are you willing to destroy just to be remembered?